She thought marrying a charming 60-year-old American expat would free her from poverty, only to discover a shocking secret about her husband just 10 days later that made her question the choice she had made. It all started when Maria dreamt of escaping the endless cycle of poverty. Every morning before sunrise, she would stare at the cracked ceiling of her tiny Manila apartment, listening to the drip, drip, drip of rainwater finding its way through the worn roof. This wasn't the life she had imagined for herself at 24. One day, she whispered to herself, "I'll sleep in a house that doesn't leak." Maria's phone buzzed beside her thin mattress. A notification from the dating app she'd installed last week. Most of her friends used these apps to meet foreign men who could provide tickets to new lives abroad. The message came from a profile called Richard Sanderson USA. Your smile caught my eye. Would you like to chat sometime? Her heart raced as she checked his profile. Silver hair, kind eyes, standing in front of a beautiful house with the ocean visible behind him. 60 years old, but with a gentle smile that made her feel safe somehow. His profile said he was a successful businessman from San Diego looking for a traditional, family-oriented wife. "Who's messaging you this early?" her cousin Tess asked, rolling over on the other mattress they shared with two other relatives. "No one," Maria said quickly, tucking the phone away. She'd heard all the warnings about foreign men seeking young Filipino wives. But she'd also watched her neighbor Jasmine marry a Canadian and send enough money home each month to move her entire family to a better neighborhood. That evening, after a long day scrubbing floors at Mrs. Santos's mansion, Maria replied to Richard. Within hours, they were messaging constantly. Within days, they were video calling. "You work so hard," Richard said during their third call, watching as Maria rubbed her sore hands. "A beautiful woman like you shouldn't have to clean other people's houses." "Jobs are hard to find here," Maria explained, embarrassed that he could see the peeling paint behind her. She always positioned her phone carefully to hide the worst parts of the apartment. "In America, you would never need to work like that again," Richard said. His American accent made every word sound important. "I'm looking for a wife who appreciates a traditional arrangement. You take care of the home, and I provide everything else." Maria's best friend Luisa wasn't convinced. "Men his age want servants, not wives," she warned when Maria showed her Richard's messages. "My cousin married an American who promised her the world. 6 months later, she was cooking and cleaning for him while he dated other women." "Richard isn't like that," Maria insisted, showing off the gold necklace he'd sent her. "He's already talking about visiting Manila." 3 weeks later, Richard announced during their video call, "I've bought my ticket. I'll be in Manila next Wednesday." Maria nearly dropped her phone. "So soon. When you get to my age, you don't waste time," he said with a wink. "I know what I want, Maria. A sweet wife who appreciates a good husband. Not like American women who only care about their careers." After ending the call, Maria sat on the apartment's small balcony, watching the lights of Manila's rich neighborhoods glitter in the distance. What did she really know about this man? They'd never met in person. But then she thought about her mother's medical bills and her younger brother Carlo's dream of attending college. 3 years of cleaning houses had barely kept them fed. Sometimes, dreams required sacrifice. Richard arrived with 2 large suitcases and checked into Manila's most expensive hotel. He took Maria to restaurants where dinner cost more than she earned in a week. He bought her new clothes and told her to quit her cleaning job. "You'll never need to work like that again," he promised on their third dinner date, sliding a small velvet box across the table. Inside was a diamond ring that caught the light from the candles. "Marry me, Maria. Come back to San Diego with me." "But we just met in person," she whispered, though her mind was already racing ahead to what this could mean for her family. "At my age, you learn to recognize what matters," he said, taking her small hand in his larger one. "I've been lonely since Eleanor died. My house needs a woman's touch again." Maria's mother cried when she told her. "America is so far," she said in Tagalog, clutching her daughter's hands. "If something happens, I'll send money home," Maria promised. "Enough for your medicine and for Carlo's university." The wedding happened 7 days later, small and rushed at City Hall. Richard seemed impatient with the paperwork, checking his watch often. Maria wore a simple white dress from the shopping mall, not the princess gown she dreamed of as a little girl. That night in the hotel, when Richard's hands moved over her body, Maria closed her eyes and thought about the house by the ocean in his pictures. This was the price of a new life. "You'll love San Diego," Richard whispered afterward, his breathing heavy in her ear. "I've already started your green card paperwork. You're my wife now. Everything I have is yours." As Maria packed her few belongings, Luisa came to say goodbye. She pressed a small envelope into Maria's hand. "My cousin in Los Angeles," she explained quietly. "Her phone number, and some dollars I saved, just in case." "I won't need it," Maria said confidently, but tucked the envelope into her suitcase anyway. At the airport, her family gathered: mother, father in his wheelchair, younger brother Carlo. Her mother couldn't stop crying. "I'll be fine," Maria assured them, fighting back her own tears. "Richard will take care of me. I'll call as soon as I land." As the plane lifted off, Maria watched Manila disappear beneath the clouds. The leaking ceiling, the cleaning jobs, the unpaid bills, all gone. Ahead was America, a big house, and a husband who wanted her. She'd be foolish to question such luck. Beside her, Richard patted her hand and returned to his newspaper. 10 days married, and Maria was flying toward a new world she knew nothing about. The mansion's massive front door swung open, revealing a house bigger than Maria had imagined possible. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating polished marble floors and furniture that looked too perfect to be used. The scent of lemon cleaner hung in the air, no trace of cooking or living. "Welcome home," Richard said, setting down their luggage in the enormous entryway. "What do you think?" Maria stood speechless, taking in the spiral staircase and crystal chandelier. The entire building where her family lived in Manila could fit inside this entrance hall. "It's beautiful," she finally managed. "Like a palace." Richard smiled proudly. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and the best view of the Pacific in the neighborhood. He checked his expensive watch. "I need to make some business calls. Why don't you explore? Everything here is yours now, too." Left alone, Maria wandered from room to room, running her fingers over leather sofas and marble countertops. Despite its size, the house felt strangely empty. No family photos, no books left open, no coffee cups forgotten on tables. It resembled the display homes she'd once cleaned, not a place where people actually lived. In the master bedroom, Maria began unpacking her small suitcase. Opening a drawer to place her clothes inside, her fingers touched something: photographs hidden beneath silk scarves. A beautiful blonde woman smiled up from the images. On the back, written in elegant handwriting, "Eleanor, 1999. My late wife," Richard said from the doorway, making Maria jump. She hadn't heard him approach. "You can use different drawers if you prefer." "No, it's fine," Maria said quickly, moving her things to another drawer. She was very beautiful. That evening, Maria used Richard's laptop to video call her family. Her mother's worried face appeared on screen, pixelated by the poor connection in Manila. "The house is amazing," Maria told her in Tagalog. "So big and clean." "Are you happy?" her mother asked. "Is he treating you well?" Before Maria could answer, Richard appeared behind her. "English in my house, please," he said with a tight smile. "You need to practice if you're going to fit in here." Later, as Richard slept beside her, Maria stared at the ceiling. In 10 days of marriage, she realized she knew almost nothing about this man, his daily routine, his work, his friends, his past. Tomorrow, she decided she would learn more. Morning arrived with unexpected noise, voices downstairs, laughter, the clatter of dishes. Maria dressed quickly and followed the sounds to the kitchen. 3 blonde women sat at the breakfast counter while Richard poured coffee. All resembled the woman in the photographs, but younger, perhaps 30 to 35. "There she is," Richard announced cheerfully. "Girls, meet Maria." "Maria, these are my daughters, Jennifer, Kathy, and Laura." Maria froze in the doorway. "You didn't tell me you had children," she said softly. "Didn't I?" Richard looked surprised. "Well, now you know. They're visiting for the weekend." The daughters studied Maria with cold eyes. Jennifer, the oldest with sharp-cut blonde hair, spoke first. "So you're wife number 5. Or is it 6 now, Dad?" Richard's laugh sounded forced. Jenny has a strange sense of humor. "Coffee, Maria?" Throughout breakfast, the daughters spoke rapidly, using slang Maria couldn't understand. They asked nothing about her life or family. When Maria mentioned Manila, Laura rolled her eyes. "Another mail-order bride?" she whispered to Kathy, not quietly enough. After breakfast, Richard took his daughters shopping. "Women's time," he explained, leaving Maria alone in the big empty house. She wandered into Richard's office, drawn by the locked filing cabinet in the corner. The key was taped under the desk, an old trick her father used at home. Inside, Maria found folders labeled with women's names. Heart racing, she opened one marked Elena Therese, 2018 to 2020. Inside were marriage certificates, divorce papers, and financial documents showing large transfers from accounts in the Philippines to Richard's American bank. Another folder showed a woman named Mei Lin, with similar papers dated 2016 to 2017. And before that, a woman called Priya. Maria's hands trembled as she replaced the folders. She'd heard stories of foreign women brought to America by husbands who wanted servants, not partners. But this seemed different, more calculated. The sound of a car in the driveway sent her scrambling to relock the cabinet. Through the window, she watched Richard's daughters leaving without him. Where was her husband? Her phone buzzed with a text. "Business emergency. Credit card on counter for groceries. Back tonight." Alone again, Maria returned to the office and photographed every document she found, sending the images to her email account. A knock at the front door startled her. Through the peephole, she saw a delivery man holding flowers. Maria signed for them with shaking hands. The card read, "Welcome to the neighborhood. Looking forward to meeting Richard's new wife, Elena," the same name from the folders. Maria's stomach tightened as she placed the flowers in water. She needed to talk to this Elena person. That evening, Richard returned with takeout food and diamond earrings. "A gift for my beautiful wife," he said, kissing her cheek. "Did you have a good day exploring the house?" "Yes," Maria lied, touching the expensive jewelry. "I got flowers today, from someone named Elena." The change in Richard's face happened so fast Maria almost missed it, a flash of anger quickly covered by a smile. "Probably the real estate agent," he said smoothly. "She's always looking for new clients." Later, Maria pretended to sleep as Richard made a hushed phone call in the bathroom. She found out about Elena. She heard him whisper, "No, I don't think she knows everything yet." "Yes, I've already started the transfer paperwork for her mother's property. Just stick to the plan." Maria's hands shook as she pushed open the glass door of the seaside cafe. The salty breeze mixed with coffee smells as her eyes darted around the crowded space. Who was this mysterious E? Who knew about her marriage? She checked her phone again, reading the strange message for the 10th time. "You should know what you've gotten yourself into. Meet me tomorrow at Seaport Village, 2 p.m. A woman waved from a corner table. Elegant, mid-30s, with a familiar face Maria couldn't quite place. As she approached, her stomach tightened. This woman looked Filipino, just like her. "I'm Elena," the woman said, her accent a blend of Manila and America. "Please sit. I ordered you iced tea. You look like you need it." Maria slid into the chair, noticing Elena's designer watch and confident posture. "What do you know, Richard?" Elena's smile dropped. "I was his wife before you. Not the American one everyone talks about, wife number 3. She pulled out her phone, showing Maria photos of a wedding ceremony. The groom was unmistakably Richard, 5 years younger, but with the same silver hair and charming smile. "That's impossible," Maria whispered. "He told me he was only married once, to Eleanor, who died. Eleanor was wife number 1. I was brought from Manila 5 years ago. Divorced after 18 months when I wouldn't sign over my uncle's inheritance to help with Richard's debts." Elena sipped her coffee calmly, but her knuckles were white around the cup. "There have been 2 more between us." The cafe seemed to spin around Maria. She gripped the table edge. "You're lying." Elena pulled up public records on her phone, marriage certificates, divorce filings, all with Richard's name. "He finds women with potential assets back home. Once he accesses their money, the marriage becomes inconvenient. He hasn't asked me for money, Maria countered, though her voice lacked conviction. Hasn't he? Elena raised an eyebrow. Has he mentioned your mother's land yet? Maria's breath caught. Last week, Richard had suggested selling her mother's small plot in the provinces, the only thing her family owned outright. How did you know about that? Because he researches his targets carefully. That land might seem worthless to you, but developers are buying up that area. Richard knows exactly what everything is worth. Elena leaned forward. Check his desk. Third drawer. He keeps files on all of us. The waitress brought another round of drinks, eyeing their intense conversation curiously. Maria barely noticed, her mind racing through memories. Richard's questions about her family's assets, his sudden interest in Philippine real estate, his insistence she call her mother about investment opportunities. Why are you telling me this? Maria finally asked. Because no one warned me. Elena's composed exterior cracked slightly. And because last month I saw him at a Filipino community event photographing young women. He's already planning for wife number 7. Maria's phone buzzed. A text from Richard asking where she was. She silenced it with trembling fingers. What happened to the others? The wives after you? Jasmine went home to Cebu with nothing. Went back to washing clothes for rich people. Lena fought back, got a small settlement. Not enough for what she went through. Elena pulled up a news article about immigrant bride exploitation. There's a support network now. People who can help. Outside the cafe window, tourists laughed and took photos of the bay. Normal people with normal lives. A week ago, Maria thought she was becoming one of them. I should go. Maria stood abruptly. He'll be suspicious. Elena handed her a business card with a phone number handwritten on the back. The second number is my personal line. Day or night. And Maria? Her eyes filled with unexpected compassion. Don't confront him until you have proof and a safe place to go. The walk home stretched longer than the actual 15 blocks. Maria's mind raced with what-ifs. Was Elena telling the truth? Could she be a jealous ex spreading lies? But those public records couldn't be faked. And how else would she know about the land? Outside Richard's, their house, Maria paused to collect herself. Through the kitchen window, she could see him pacing, phone pressed to his ear. His voice carried through the partially open window. Accessing the Philippines property shouldn't be difficult, he was saying. The new wife's cooperation is guaranteed. She's completely dependent. Their eyes met through the glass. Maria stood frozen on the path while Richard slowly lowered the phone, his expression transforming from shock to calculated charm in seconds. There you are, darling, he called, coming to open the door. I was worried. Who were you talking to? Maria asked, her voice steadier than she expected. Richard slipped the phone into his pocket. Just boring business. Nothing for you to worry about. He reached to touch her face, but Maria flinched away involuntarily. His eyes narrowed slightly. You shouldn't eavesdrop, you know. It makes it difficult to surprise you with the investments I'm making for our future. The word investments hung in the air between them. Maria forced a smile, suddenly aware she was playing a very dangerous game. I'm sorry, she lied. I'm just tired from shopping. As Richard turned to pour her a glass of wine, Maria caught sight of his desk across the living room, the third drawer slightly ajar. Inside her pocket, Elena's card seemed to burn against her skin. Tell me about your day, Richard said, handing her the wine. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Maria took a sip, buying time. Tonight, while he slept, she would search that drawer. And tomorrow she would decide who was lying. But as Richard steered her toward the bedroom, his hand possessive on her lower back, a terrifying thought surfaced. What if she was already too late to escape? Every diamond bracelet felt like another chain. Maria stared at the sparkling gift Richard had just clasped around her wrist. The third expensive present this week. You deserve beautiful things, he murmured, kissing her neck while she struggled not to pull away. 7 days had passed since her meeting with Elena. 7 nights of searching for evidence while Richard slept. The locked drawer in his office remained her biggest challenge. But other discoveries painted a damning picture. Hidden prenuptial agreements. Photos of other Filipino women tucked in old books. a folder labeled Philippines properties with her mother's village highlighted on maps. "I thought we might visit your family next month," Richard suggested casually over breakfast. "Help your mother with that land situation." Maria focused on buttering her toast, careful to keep her voice neutral. "What land situation?" "The property developers who've been pressuring her." His smile was concerned. "Perfect. You mentioned it when we first met." She hadn't. "That's so thoughtful," she lied, adding another mental tally to Elena's credibility score. The doorbell interrupted them. Richard frowned. He hated unexpected visitors, but went to answer. Maria quickly snapped photos of the property documents with her secret second phone, purchased with cash and hidden inside a box of feminine products Richard would never touch. "Maria." Richard's voice carried a forced cheerfulness. "Look who stopped by." His eldest daughter, Jennifer, stood in the entryway, designer sunglasses pushed up into her blonde hair. At 32, she was 8 years older than Maria. "Just in the neighborhood," Jennifer said with a tight smile. "Thought I'd check how the newlyweds are doing." Maria offered coffee while the two made stiff small talk. Jennifer's visits always felt like inspections. "Dad, can I borrow you for some car advice?" Jennifer finally asked. They stepped outside to her luxury SUV, leaving Maria alone. She moved quickly to the window, watching them argue beside the vehicle. Richard gesturing emphatically, Jennifer shaking her head. Thinking they were out of earshot, their voices grew louder. "Fourth Filipino girl in 6 years," Jennifer was saying. "The family lawyers are asking questions about the money transfers." "My finances are none of your business," Richard snapped. "Or theirs. It becomes my business when you're burning through mom's inheritance with these foreign bride schemes." Maria backed away from the window, heart pounding. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. That afternoon, while Richard napped, Maria finally found her opportunity. His keys lay on the bathroom counter while he showered. Working quickly, she made an impression of the office key in a bar of soap, returning the original before he noticed. The next day, she visited a locksmith recommended by Elena, claiming she'd lost her desk key. With the copy in hand, Maria waited for a moment. It came 3 days later when Richard left for his golf game. The third drawer opened smoothly, revealing meticulously labeled folders. Maria Flores, Assets and Strategy. Lena Reyes, Legal Vulnerabilities. Elena Santos, Settlement Limits. Her fingers trembled as she photographed every document, finding her own marriage certificate alongside a second version with different terms. Papers authorizing Richard to act as her financial representative. Form sheets signed, thinking they were immigration documents that actually transferred property rights. A text from Richard's golf partner flashed on her phone, the one Richard insisted she carry. Game ending early. Richard headed home. Maria rushed to replace everything, nearly dropping the folders in her panic. As she locked the drawer, the front door opened. "Hello," Richard called out. "Maria?" She stepped out of the office, schooling her features into a smile. "You're home early." "I was just dusting." His eyes moved past her to the office door, then back to her face. Something in his expression had changed. "My allergies," she added, faking a sneeze. That night, Maria lay awake beside him, planning her escape. The Filipino gardener had connected her with a paralegal who specialized in immigrant rights. The evidence was backed up in 3 different places. But she needed money. Richard controlled every dollar. Her chance came at breakfast when Richard announced, "I've invited my daughters for dinner Friday. Wear that blue dress they liked." Maria nodded, though all 3 daughters had mocked that dress. "I'll need to go shopping for ingredients. Can I have a credit card?" For the first time, Richard hesitated. "I'll come with you." "You hate grocery shopping," she reminded him. "Besides, don't you have that conference call?" He relented, but with conditions. "Just groceries. Keep the receipts." At the store, Maria bought everything needed for a Filipino feast, plus something else, a prepaid debit card, paid for with cash withdrawn while buying groceries. A small financial lifeline. The dinner party became Maria's testing ground. Richard's 3 daughters arrived, dressed expensively, their smiles not reaching their eyes. "Such exotic food," commented the middle daughter, barely touching her plate. "Dad loves ethnic cuisine now," Jennifer said pointedly. Among other ethnic interests. Maria served silently, pretending her English wasn't good enough to understand their rapid, slang-filled conversation. It was a technique Elena had suggested. People spoke freely around those they believed couldn't understand. Have you done the prenup trick yet? The youngest daughter asked Richard when Maria stepped into the kitchen. Lower your voice, he hissed. What? She barely speaks English, Jennifer scoffed. That's what you like about them, isn't it? Easy to control. Maria returned with dessert, smiling blandly. Inside, her mind recorded every word. Later that night, while clearing dishes, she deliberately broke one of Eleanor's china plates. Richard's reaction was immediate. A flash of rage quickly controlled. Clumsy girl, he said, gripping her wrist painfully. We'll have to be more careful with valuable things. The message was clear. She was replaceable. The china wasn't. The next morning, Richard announced their trip to the Philippines had been moved up. We leave next Thursday. I've already called your mother. Maria nodded, panic rising. Once in the Philippines, away from American laws and witnesses, what might happen? She waited until that night, when his sleeping pill had taken effect. In their darkened bedroom, Maria finally spoke the truth. I know about Elena. About all of them. Richard's eyes flew open, sleep instantly gone. He sat up slowly. What are you talking about? Your previous wives. The real estate scams. The prenup trick. Her voice remained steady despite her racing heart. Richard's facade cracked, then reformed into something colder. Who have you been talking to? Does it matter? I've seen the files. The documents. I know what happens in the Philippines isn't a vacation. It's you pressuring my mother to sign over land you already have plans for. He moved with surprising speed for his age, gripping her arm. No one will believe you. A poor girl from Manila, desperate to stay in America. They'll say you'd invent anything. What Richard didn't know, Maria's second phone was recording every word from beneath her pillow. Let go of me, she said quietly. You signed the prenup. You have nothing. Without me, immigration sends you back to your miserable life, washing floors. That's not how American law works. Maria pulled free. And I'd rather wash floors than be your prisoner. Richard's laugh was ugly. Tomorrow we're still flying to the Philippines. You're still signing those papers. Or your family suffers the consequences. His threat hung in the darkness between them. Maria felt something inside her shift. Fear transforming into determination. We'll see, she answered, turning away from him. As Richard eventually fell back asleep, Maria silently packed a small bag and sent 3 messages, one to Elena, one to the paralegal, and one to Jennifer with an attachment of her father's complete files. Before sunrise, she would be gone from the Golden Cage. The battle was just beginning, but for the first time since landing in America, Maria had something Richard couldn't take away, the truth and the power to expose it. The rain pounded against the courthouse windows as Maria clutched her folder of evidence. Her hand shook. Today marked exactly 3 months since she had fled Richard's house in the midnight dark. The judge called her name, and her legs wobbled as she approached the stand. Look who dressed up to play the victim, a voice hissed. Richard sat with his expensive lawyer, his silver hair perfectly combed, his smile aimed at the female judge. Maria touched the hidden recording device in her pocket, her safety net. Richard didn't know she had captured everything. His threats, his admission about the other wives, his plans for her mother's land. The lawyer Elena had helped her find sat nearby, giving her a small nod. Ms. Reyes, please tell the court why you're seeking this restraining order, the judge said. Maria's throat tightened. She had practiced this speech for weeks, but facing Richard made the English words jumble in her head. She closed her eyes and pictured her mother's small kitchen back home, finding strength in the memory. Richard married me with a plan, she began, her voice growing firmer with each word. I was wife number 4 from the Philippines. He finds women like me, takes our family's money, then throws us away. Richard's smile never faltered, but his eyes turned cold. His lawyer stood to object, but Maria held up her phone. I have proof. The recording played, Richard's voice crystal clear as he discussed her village simplicity with someone laughing about how easily he could manipulate her into signing over her mother's land. The courtroom fell silent. The judge's expression hardened as she listened. Afterward, in the hallway, Maria pressed herself against the wall, her heart racing. The restraining order had been granted. Richard couldn't come near her home, her work, or her mother back in the Philippines. But Maria felt hollow inside. The victory seemed small compared to all she had lost. "You did it." Elena appeared beside her, squeezing her arm. "You broke the cycle." "He still has everything," Maria whispered. "His house, his money." "Not everything." Elena handed her a business card. "My cousin works at Immigrant Services. They can help you stay in America without Richard. And this lawyer thinks you have a case for fraud." That night, Maria couldn't sleep in the tiny room Elena's friend had offered her. She stared at the water stain on the ceiling, shaped like her home country. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jennifer, Richard's youngest daughter. "I believe you. Dad did the same to my mom. Can we meet?" The coffee shop buzzed with morning customers. Maria arrived early, choosing a table where she could watch the door. When Jennifer walked in, Maria barely recognized her without the fancy clothes and makeup she'd worn at Richard's house. "I found these," Jennifer said, sliding a folder across the table. "Dad's divorce papers. All of them. 5 wives in 12 years. 2 from the Philippines, 1 for Vietnam, 1 from Thailand, and my mom." Maria's fingers trembled as she opened the folder. Photographs of women, all with hopeful smiles, all holding Richard's arm like he was their lifeline. Prenup documents with nearly identical wording. Bank transfers to overseas accounts. "Why are you helping me?" Maria asked. Jennifer stared into her coffee. "He cheated my mom out of everything when I was little. Now she cleans houses 6 days a week with arthritis in her hands." She looked up, her eyes hard. "I want him to stop." 2 weeks later, Maria sat in a room with 5 other women. 2 she recognized from Jennifer's photos, Richard's previous wives. The others were immigrants like her, married to American men who had turned out to be predators, not saviors. A lady lawyer with kind eyes explained how they could file a group case against men like Richard. "It won't be easy," the lawyer warned. "But together, your stories are stronger." That evening, Maria received another call, Richard's bank. The account she didn't know existed, the one where her small monthly transfers to her mother had been diverted, had been frozen pending fraud investigation. The bank officer's voice was apologetic but firm. "We're seeing a pattern with several accounts Mr. Anderson controls. We'd like you to come in to discuss this matter." Spring turned to summer. Maria's days filled with English classes and meetings with lawyers. She found work cleaning offices at night, hard work that reminded her of Manila, but the money was her own. Each small victory built her confidence. Her temporary visa approval, her testimony that helped freeze more of Richard's assets, her first apartment security deposit. In July, Maria stood nervously at the airport arrival gate, holding a small sign with her mother's name. When the tiny woman with gray-streaked hair appeared in the crowd, Maria ran to her, sobbing into her familiar shoulder. "Look at you," her mother said, touching Maria's face. "You've changed." That night, in Maria's small but clean apartment, they sat on the balcony watching fireworks from a distance. Her mother's suitcase contained little clothes, family photos, and the deed to their land, still safely in the family's name. "Richard came to our village," her mother said quietly. "He brought gifts. Tried to convince me you were lying about him." Maria stiffened. "What did you do?" Her mother smiled, a fierce look Maria hadn't seen since childhood. "I showed him the letter you sent with all the evidence. Then I showed it to every family in our town with daughters. His kind won't find wives there anymore." In September, Maria stood in front of a classroom of immigrant women at the community center. The same room where she had once sat, terrified and homeless, now watched her speak with growing confidence. "The green card isn't worth your safety," she told them, passing out pamphlets about immigrant rights. "And men who target women from poor countries aren't looking for love." After class, Elena waited with exciting news. The lawsuit against Richard was moving forward, with 3 more women joining their case. Jennifer had found evidence of tax fraud in her father's business records. Richard's perfectly constructed world was crumbling brick by brick. That evening, Maria sat on her small balcony, helping her mother tend to the potted herb garden they'd started together. Below, neighborhood children played in the fading light. Her phone buzzed with a message from her English teacher. She passed the nursing program entrance exam. All this fighting, her mother sighed, looking tired. Sometimes I wonder if coming to America was worth such pain. Maria looked around at her modest apartment, so different from the mansion Richard had promised. Yet something had blossomed inside her these past months. Something stronger than the frightened girl who had boarded a plane with a stranger. "I came looking for someone to rescue me," Maria said, gently touching a fragrant basil leaf. "I never expected the person who would save me was myself." As darkness fell, Maria opened her new nursing textbook, the pages still crisp and full of possibility. The journey ahead would be difficult. The court case, her education, building a life from scratch. But for the first time since leaving her homeland, the future felt truly hers to shape. Her phone lit up with a new message. Another woman, recently escaped from a marriage suspiciously similar to hers, seeking advice. Maria's fingers hovered over the screen. The work of reclaiming her life was far from over, but in helping others find their strength, she had discovered her own power, worth more than any green card or golden cage a man like Richard could ever offer.